vision of a renewed Adventist movement which creates significant lives and transforms communities has been a primary focus of the West Australian Conference over the recent years.
In fact, Brad, in June 2019, just behind us here, we've got the strategic plan which we released, and it was really encouraging local churches to go on a spiritual journey, to engage with their local community in service, but also having a real missional impact with the people they serve.
As a conference, we have made a very clear decision to move more into a coaching model where we are working with local churches in enabling faithful followers of Jesus to share the good news.
We're just going to share a few stories, Brad, from around our conference in local churches, aged care and education that show where people are making a difference.
At the beginning of the quadrennium, the departmental directors and the administrators decided on a new initiative called the Thriving Churches Process. This process is there to equip and to energize our churches and their pastors to achieve their God-given mission. One of our youngest church plants, Hope Spring Fellowship, meets in this building. And they are among 5 churches, both from the city and the country, who are undertaking this journey.
I've been working in this conference for the last 16 years. And this is the first time that I received this kind of support that energizes our people and swings them into action.
The Thriving Churches process starts with an intensive spiritual preparation, followed by a visioning event.
Thriving Church concept is not about a pastor-driven church. It's about empowering the members and those involved to take up the roles and do them themselves. I've been a Bible worker with this crew now for about 2 years. I've watched it grow from a dozen members to now about 60. Basically what it's all about is us getting the ball and running with it, and we just do it.
One Sabbath afternoon, the church came together to assess where we are at as far as our strength is concerned, our weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it dawned on me that one of the weaknesses is that only the pastoral team are giving Bible studies.
Me and my wife were amongst the group that were recently baptized, and I'm so inspired that majority of the church members are now switched on in giving Bible studies.
I am a part of a strategic planning group in a corporate world where managers tells us what to do, but in here it's very different. Conference leaders are guiding the discussions, but we, the church members, are the one driving it.
Each church owns the process, and they are finding their God-given purpose that looks different from church to church. They plan, they set their goals, and they do the work. We as departmental directors are there to guide them, to help them reflect, and to keep them accountable. And the result is thriving churches.
We are joined by part of our WA team to have a chat about some of those key strategies that the conference is using to create those thriving communities. And Hope Springs is one of the churches that has engaged in the Thriving Church process that Piroshka just spoke about. And we're joined today by Niku, who's our church planting director. So Niku, can you share a little bit more about Hope Springs and other church plants within our conference?
I mean, our conference is so blessed to have such a dedicated team of church planters, pastors and volunteers. And Hope Spring is a primary example of churches planting churches because they are a second generation coming from the Filipino church, and they planted in an area of Kwinana, which we did not have any other presence there before. And also we have, starting the last 12 months, another church coming from the Filipino called Living Waters.
So can you give us some other examples of churches planting churches within our conference?
Yes, we have, with the support of the Mission to the City funding, we have 5 new church plants that started in the last 4 years. Coburn is another area we did not have any presence there, and early this year we have a dedicated team of pastors and volunteers starting a church plant in Coburn. We also have another church planted at the Lansdale School called Embrace, and also from the North Perth Church we have 2 new church plants that started, one of them being Banksia, in an area that there was not any other presence before. And we can have a look at the video to see what's happening there.
Do you desire today to join the fellowship of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and support the church in your mission as a faithful steward and by your influence, because you have a fair bit of that?
I do. Today is an amazing day for me because I've officially become part of the Seventh-day Adventist family. I come from Saudi Arabia, from a Muslim family, and God has led me to Seventh-day Adventist Church. It has changed my life miraculously.
12 of us were tasked to go and come up with ideas, and so we started the journey by praying. We spent a lot of time praying.
I remember a face of an individual coming to me while we were having that really big prayer session. So I went and spoke to this individual, and he said to me, "We as a family have been praying about this for quite some time."
My parents started this church plant back in the beginning of the year with our core team. We'd always loved North Perth, but the one thing that I love about being at this church plant is the rawness and the authenticity of it, and just the fellowship with a smaller church family, but members who feel like they're not just members.
Here at Banksia Grove, a lot more relaxed. We sit in a circle rather than in rows. We also here are going through the book of Acts systematically and trying to learn how the early church came about with their passion for Jesus and how they spread the gospel with that passion.
A perfect church to me is somewhere where it's like a hospital, where you can just come and you can feel, regardless of what you're going through and what you're experiencing, that it's the place for you to be in. And that by the time you leave here, you feel like you found what you're looking for, or you felt you received the comfort and the care that you need.
Some really exciting stuff coming out of North Perth Church. They did it with a heart of mission, and I'm really excited to see what God will be able to do in the future.
It was great to see young people a part of that church planting process. And we know for churches to truly thrive, all generations need to be a part of it. And that's why our conference has embarked on the Growing Together journey. And we have Lucy with us today just to share a little bit more about Growing Together.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. You know, you're absolutely right. A thriving, intergenerational, Jesus-centred community is what we aim for. However, our current reality is one of disengagement with our young people. And so the WA conference has embarked on this journey called Growing Together.
And how many churches are a part of this journey?
So we've got 12 local churches that have opted into the Growing Together journey and completed the first year of the cohort. And what they've done during that year is taken a deep dive into 6 core commitments, core values that can help to restart and recharge the church culture so that they can engage with their young people going forward. I'd love to share with you some of Maida Vale's church journey.
I remember 30 or 40 years ago, this was a growing church. A few years ago, I ended up back here, and it was a different story.
Maida Vale Church was on the decline, but fortunately for the church, we had a couple of very good prayer warriors who were praying that young families and children would start attending.
I was sitting at the kitchen table with my daughter, and she said, "Mum, I want to instill Christian values into my children." I said, "Do you want me to take them to church?" She said, "Yeah." And I was like, did God just answer my prayers?
So when Kerry's grandchildren started coming to Maida Vale, and there's 5 of them, other families started coming too. So we went from something like 20 adults and 2 kids to more like 50, 60 adults and 15 kids or more. It's like a big family.
Dad and I were searching for God, and it was during the COVID times. We found a church in our local neighbourhood, and at first I was reluctant as I never had a church experience before, but people were very loving, caring, and made me feel at home.
So Growing Together really helped us to be more intentional about building that nurturing culture. I think we've become more adaptable, definitely a lot more people involved, willing to be involved, more community minded. just more Jesus-centred.
It's been great to watch Maida Vale's journey unfold. And you know, at the core of Growing Together is intergenerational Jesus-centred communities focused on mission. And lots of our churches in the Growing Together process are now developing goals about how they can be the best neighbours.
And I love that, Lucy, because thriving communities, they look outwards, they're focused on service. And so we have Susanna here, and Susanna is our ADRA Director, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how ADRA is meeting the needs of our communities.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. There's a lot of ways that our churches engage in their local communities, from Maida Vale with their community centre and Belmont with their community centre. So they do things like the food pantries and the community meals programs, emergency relief, counselling, support groups, arts and craft groups. So there's a lot of ways that they can connect in with their communities. If you look at the Cannington Garden, they've got the Work for the Dole program, so it's another area that they connect in. But a great example of a regional area is Manjimup Church with their Manji Panji and their ADRA op shop, and we're going to look at the video of that now.
Surrounded by the tall timbers and renowned for its agricultural produce, the town of Manjimup lies in the centre of a thriving farming community. Its history was paved by the lucrative timber industry, its present, however, challenged by economic inequality.
Part of that economic distress leads to food distress. The Manji Pantry has now been running for 18 months. In that time, our numbers have increased from 30 people to now over 200 families that we are servicing twice a month.
Staffed by the local church members and the volunteers from the community, the pantry alongside the op shop operates under the banner of ADRA, the official humanitarian agency of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
It's a great place. It means we can stock the cupboards up when sometimes we can't.
And while source of cheap food is the driving factor for some, for others, it's more than that.
As a church, it binds us together because we start to appreciate different things about each other, and working together really does bind you together.
This is an outreach that you can do that gives great benefit to your community, but it can be a great benefit to your church because your church becomes involved in your community. With this, we have people come into this building who are not part of our church, but they know where we are.
Additional to running the pantry, the church distributes up to 80 hampers of free food weekly through the Second Bite program.
The Second Bite program has brought us contacts for the pantry. It has also brought us contacts that are now attending the church.
I enjoy the delivering. That's the bit I look forward to, really. That's the cream on the cake. That's when you meet the people, and you get a good response everywhere.
Due to the low socio-demographic nature of our area, there's a definite need for services like the Manji Pantry, and I'm very pleased to see that the Manji Pantry has been nominated for their services to our community for a Australia Day Award.
Another way that our conference can care for our communities is through our two companies, Education and Aged Care. And they have the unique opportunity of ministering to our young people and also our older people and their families. And that directly links to the mission of our strategic plan.
Our story today is about a frog. Lots of frogs. Our story time in the bush has been aimed at inviting local families within the community around our school to come in. It creates a wonderful opportunity for families to be able to share a good literacy experience with their children and also to be able to create friendship networks with local people.
Adventist Christian schools are deeply committed to developing thriving Christ-centred learning communities. Adventist educators have two core responsibilities: to create excellent learning opportunities and to disciple kids for Christ.
The Encounter Bible curriculum is central to this influence, starting from kindy to year 12.
So for us as staff at our schools, this looks like starting each day with worship. It looks like a staff that meet together and pray for our families, for one another and our greater community. We then move into our classrooms where we begin our day with our students with worship, devotion and prayer again. Woven through every lesson that we teach, it's underpinned with the Adventist Christian worldview, so we're always referring back to our Maker and Creator in all of the things that we teach.
But sharing Jesus goes deeper than that.
75% of Lansdale Christian students come from non-Adventist backgrounds. We have a fantastic opportunity to introduce them to Jesus. We at Lansdale Christian School believe that it's God's school. We intentionally dedicate this school to His work and give Him permission to take control when He needs to.
Obviously, Christian values are the foundation of our school, but so is academic excellence. In 2020, 100% of the eligible students achieved their WA Certificate of Education. We were 2 out of 16 schools in the WA state to achieve this.
And with positive academic results, strong Christian values, and the focus of developing a safe, nurturing environment, comes the increasing need to expand capacity.
Victoria Park Christian School has experienced significant growth over the last 4 years. Because of this, we're needing to put on 4 new classrooms for our students. We've received a government grant to help accommodate this change, and we're very excited for the future.
The growth has not just been at Vic Park. A refurbished dormitory at Carmel Secondary, new classroom blocks at Carmel Primary and Lansdale, as well as outdoor learning spaces at each primary campuses, have allowed for the continued development of these schools.
We are so very excited about the opening of the next stage of our master plan. This will increase our capacity and, more importantly, our influence in our local community.
That same level of influence and commitment in offering a holistic approach is also applied when meeting the needs of the opposite end of the age group spectrum, the residents at Adventist Care.
I hear this time and time again, that people go to retirement villages and nursing homes as places to die. We at Adventist Care are challenging that perception.
Adventist Care's vision statement is holistic care, enriching and transforming lives.
Here at Rossmoyne Waters, we share the good news of God's love to everyone. And the sharing of hope is very important because seniors face challenges that aging brings.
At Rossmoyne Waters, Christians of various faith backgrounds unite in worship to enjoy a common trust in their Creator and Saviour.
We want to care for their physical needs, their social needs, and their spiritual needs. We want them to be part of a community where they are valued and loved.
Home care services are now offered exclusively to residents of Rossmoyne Waters. This further reinforces Adventist Care's commitment to holistically serving its community.
We just love living here at Rossmoyne Waters. It's really good.
We do. It's really lovely. I feel safe. I love the bush. I can look out. I love the highway. I love the movement. It's just wonderful.
And where else would you meet 86 other people? And we do great social things together, so it's really good. We love it here. You should come.
Rossmoyne Waters is a place where people come to live, and honestly, I hear them saying they are having the best days of their life.
To enhance its provision of excellent services, Adventist Care has embarked on a significant redevelopment plan at Rossmoyne.
Stage 1 of the redevelopment, the award-winning Australis, delivers resort-style accommodation and amenities for its residents.
This building, which has just celebrated its 2nd anniversary, it's now debt-free.
We are so excited to be associated with a building that has set a new benchmark of retirement living in Perth.
And with further developments on the cards, Adventist Care will soon see the updates to the remainder of its well-worn facilities that have served the residents over the past 6 decades.
Stage 2 of Rossmoyne Waters redevelopment plan is on the drawing boards right now. Stage 2 is going to deliver a brand new residential aged care facility that replaces Sherwin Lodge. We're also going to provide some more independent living units and some assisted living units. Stage 2 is going to exceed expectations.
Adventist Care is positioning itself to meet the needs of seniors. Rossmoyne Waters, in the past, in the present, and in the future, is truly a place where seniors go to live.
Brad, we've just shared a few stories of what's been happening around our conference in those stories. And you know, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to all of our volunteers and staff who have done their part of sharing Jesus Christ, the good news of Jesus Christ in the context of the Three Angels message.
We want to thank all of the people that make up our conference who
over recent past have continued to faithfully return tithe and the offerings which help fund the mission. We also want to thank all of those in our conference who are helping to make big transformations in the West Australian community as they centre their lives on Jesus Christ.